But welcome and thank you for coming. My name is Joe Mazzone and I am Coding Room's Customer Success and Product Manager. Happy to be with you here tonight and show you the new version of Coding Rooms. There are a few links that I'm going to provide to you in the chat that can help get you started with the new version. There we go. First link I just provided in the chat, and I'll post it a couple times as people come in, is just the direct link to the new version of Coding Rooms. You can access that, as I'm going to show you now, from the Coding Rooms website. So notice you can go to codingrooms.com, and when you click log in or get started, depending on if you have an account already or not, you will be able to access the new version. I've also shared with you a few other resources, such as our Getting Started course, which is a way for you to learn how to use the new version of Coding Rooms from the perspective of a student. Our Help Center direct link, if you'd like to bookmark that to find all the articles on how to do X, Y, and Z on Coding Rooms. And then if you're looking for some example projects of some of the things that you can do on Coding Rooms, you're wondering some of the more technical limitations, and if it's possible to do some more advanced projects, you may want to check out the example projects link there to see some really great more advanced projects that you can do on Coding Rooms. Once you are logged in, you'll see the new Coding Rooms dashboard. Now, if it's your first time going to the new version of Coding Rooms, you may not have any courses. If you've used the classic version of Coding Rooms, you will see your classic courses on the Coding Rooms dashboard. They'll say classic at the bottom, and you can click them to still access your classic courses. This includes students, so when students log in, if you're still using a classic course with students, they will be able to access it from the new Coding Rooms dashboard and go right into their classic course and continue to their learning for the semester or the school year. One of the things I want to emphasize in the new version of Coding Rooms is really the ability to share and create. And so front and center, we do have a marketplace in which we'll be expanding the offerings, as we continue to build the product. When you go to the marketplace, you can find materials shared by other teachers, and you can download and use them for free. When you use the materials in the marketplace, you get your own copy that you can fully modify, edit, use individual pages, sections of pages, anything you want inside of these templates to build your courses. Some of them include some of the Coding Rooms webinar materials, as well as other full courses that teachers have uploaded, and maybe just some lab activities that teachers have uploaded. These are always available to you in the marketplace, and you can click on the marketplace link and just click use the template in order to make a copy. We will be expanding the marketplace soon, including paid offerings, which will allow you to put up your coursework or anything you'd like to share with users in a more teacher pay teachers kind of model where you can charge for some of your content. Also be on the lookout for a learners marketplace where students can enroll in open courses that people can host on Coding Rooms. Now, probably the first thing you want to do on Coding Rooms is you want to actually create your course. In the top right-hand corner of your dashboard, you'll see there's a new course button. And when you click on it, it will bring you to the page to create a new course. You can create a course from scratch, just an empty course with nothing in it, and start building your content. Or you can use some of the Coding Rooms templates that we offer for free, either through some open source curriculum initiatives or some Coding Rooms developed courses. This is all content, again, that you can take, modify, use pieces of, add your own stuff to. You can use this content to build your courses however you'd like. And in today's webinar, I'll show you how you can actually move these pages around. If you do have a Coding Rooms Classic course, stay tuned, because very soon you should be able to also migrate those classic courses into the new version using the content that you've already created in the classic version to get you started in the new. For today, I'm going to show off one of our most popular template courses, which is CS Awesome, a very well-known AP Computer Science A curriculum. It's an open source curriculum that has a great community around it. And we offer that on Coding Rooms, where teachers can actually use the content in their courses, as well as modify it to their liking to essentially make their own remix of the CS Awesome curriculum to meet the needs of their learners. When you go to create a course, you can completely change the name for how you want it on your dashboard. So you don't even have to call it CS Awesome if you don't want. You can call it, Period 2 AP Computer Science A, or whatever name you'd like. For instance, today I'm going to call it Webinar 3/17/2022. You can offer a headline for some additional information about your course. And we do offer public courses, in which those are courses that you can host content and allow users to interact with that content without having to log into Coding Rooms. This is if you wanted to create open coursework or share your coursework with people without having to have them log in or submit work to you. They could just actually go through it, try out the exercises without having to submit anything to you. So it's mainly for sharing information. You'll notice that the Help Center is actually a Coding Rooms course now. And you'll see that as a team, us at Coding Rooms will be using Coding Rooms courses to communicate information to our users. Once you click Create, if you're using a template, it's going to copy all of that content into a copy for you to use. And so you'll notice that here's my course. It says content successfully created because we started with a template. If we didn't start with a template, we wouldn't have any content, and we would have nothing over here on the left-hand side for content, and we would be needing to add students and add content. Because we already started with content, you'll notice there are some pages already in here. All the chapters of CS Awesome. You can organize your content into these folders, modules, and continue to add pages as part of your course. All the pages over here on the left are different things that you can create or are already pre-built for you. In CS Awesome, all the pages are what we call interactive lesson style pages, meaning they're a kind of infinitely scrolling page of content from top to bottom of little actual learning content and words, as well as actual activities of coding tasks, multiple choice questions, Parsons problems. We'll take a look at what that looks like in a minute. We also offer coding assignment pages. These are ones with a large coding IDE, and you can use even more professional developing environments like Visual Studio Code on a coding assignment. It gives you students a larger workspace to work through a bigger project. And then we have modules which help organize your learning content. Let's take a look at an interactive page from CS Awesome. It'll kind of give us an idea of what we can do. So here is page 2.1 from CS Awesome. You can see that there's text, images, short answer questions, embedded videos, drag and drop questions, multiple choice questions, and of course, a coding IDE right built on the page. And I'll show you what this looks like for students too. But it is essentially the same experience. Only right now you're in the teacher editing mode. And as I mentioned, you have full control over the content you want to give to students. For instance, let's say you don't like this paragraph right here. You can actually highlight it as the teacher in this editing mode, hit backspace on your keyboard, and delete it. You get to edit the content however you'd like to meet the needs of your learners. This works just like any other word processing program, where you can just start typing information, create headings very easily, highlight text to format it into those things like headings, bold, strike-throughs. Even change things like the text color. You can edit the content however you'd like. Now, all these wonderful interactive elements of the page are what we call blocks. The reason why we call these things blocks is it's based on our editor. This is what you call, it's kind of a newer style of a word processing editor. We call it a block editor. And the reason why we call it that is every element on the page is an individual block. You notice this little plus sign and this little handle here next to each thing. These are draggable block elements. You can see that little blue rectangle that just went around that individual block when I selected it, that you can drag around the page. You can delete blocks, duplicate blocks, copy blocks. You have control over those things. Now, when you click this plus sign or use the slash command, you can insert new blocks to your page. This, of course, does include ways to format text, add bulleted lists, ordered lists, quotes, dividers on the page. So tons of ways that you can kind of design your content. But the real magic is with our interactive blocks. And so we have interactive blocks like the Coding Rooms IDE. These are all the things that students can interact with on your page. The rest of the content is just static content, just like they're viewing a normal web page. But these are things that are their actual activities that students can do, complete, and you can assess. So we have the IDE, multiple choice, short answer, drag and drop, fill in the blank, Parsons problems, code select. You can even have checklists to have students check off tasks as they're working on a longer project. If you need them to upload files like PDFs, Word documents, any other image files, anything else that's part of some kind of assignment, they can even upload those files to you. We can even embed other websites onto the page. And you can do some more complex layouts like tabs or buttons that hide and reveal content, organize things into tables, insert math equations, and so much more. All you have to do is click one of these options and it will add to your page. Embeds are really cool, and this is how you can embed things like videos. So we can put in, for instance, a YouTube link, and it will embed right onto the page. We can add other types of embeds. For instance, you can even embed Google Docs and everything. Embeds really help you make all the content of your course on a single page. So students don't have to go to this link and that link and you have all over the place. They can just stay right inside the Coding Rooms page and complete a lesson. For instance, we can add Google Docs. Maybe you have Google Slides, which is a very popular option, or some other slides or document of the lesson that you've gone through with students. And you can embed those kind of things right on the page for students to go through. You can even embed interactive websites. Not every website's supported. The website does have to support it, but there's a number of other interactive websites that work as embeds. For instance, PhET simulations is a really popular one in science classes. And you can embed a PhET simulation as well as other simulations and binary calculators and kinds of things onto the Coding Rooms page. And it's actually interactive for students to be able to complete the assignment right there on the page. So the embeds are incredibly powerful. Notice this entire thing works as it should. Of course, the Coding Rooms IDE is another really powerful block that you can add to the page. With Coding Rooms IDE, if you have any experience with it, you probably already know exactly how I'd like to describe it. It's easy enough to use that students can just click the run button and the code will just work as you set it up for them. But it is powerful enough that you can do the most advanced projects. And that's because we run the students' code on a full Linux virtual machine, where students can also see the desktop of that virtual machine to check out graphics, GUIs, and other kinds of things. For instance, here in CS Awesome 2.1, students are working with the turtle library in Java, where it actually generates a drawing that the turtle does. So we can actually see that here on the desktop, just like we would if we were on a normal desktop computer running this Java code. And that's one of the powers of coding rooms. Although we're online and students can code on any device, including Chromebooks, iPads, tablets, their phone, they still have the power of a full desktop machine. I can click stop, run it again, and you'll notice that window will pop up just like it would if you were programming on a local environment. Of course, this workspace may be a little small. So you can always go full screen on the desktop too and have students fully interact with it. Again, this is a full desktop, so we have file managing applications. We have a full Linux terminal for students to work with. Students have all that at their fingertips for any lessons you'd like to teach them on the computer. Maybe one of the things you've thought about is that the coding area is kind of small on these pages. Pages are really nice. We can organize lots of content. It's kind of a small area for students to program. You'll notice that every block has this little expand icon in the top right-hand corner. You can click on that to make the block full screen while students are working on that particular thing. For instance, students have come to this area, they're coding, and they want to focus on this. They can expand that block and actually work on this particular area where now they have a larger workspace to actually type the code and interact with their code. And again, there's lots of other kinds of blocks, like short answer blocks, or drag and drop, multiple choice, and many options such as disabling instant feedback, shuffling the options, allowing multiple selections. Each block has some of its own settings and ways that you can customize the way it works with your students. Now, we've been looking at the teacher view. You may be wondering, well, how does it work for the students? What does it look like on the student's view? At any point in time when you're designing your own content or using these pages and you want to know what it looks like from the student's perspective, you can click on the student preview in the top right-hand corner. The student preview will give you a view as a student, and you can see what the blocks look like and how they work as a student. It even allows you to make sure that you've selected the proper options and that everything grades the way you'd expect it to. For instance, we can actually try out this multiple choice question. How many objects can you create from a class in Java? Well, as many as you need. You're not limited by the number of objects you can create. But let's make sure if the student selects one, that it marks them incorrect. It does. And let's make sure the correct answer is working properly. It is. So you can check that and make sure your page is working the way you'd expect it to. Even the coding ID, you can check that out, make sure it's working the way you want. Notice the student view is a little bit different from the teacher view. It's a little more simplified. There's some less options. And if I go back over to the teacher view, I can show you some of those options. One of the things is the test bench. Ways for you to create auto-graded tests for students. One of the most wonderful things about the CS Awesome curriculum is it comes with really powerful automated tests already for you. Those tests are already built in here on Coding Rooms. So for instance, I didn't do anything to create automated tests for this coding ID, but if I check my answer right now, CS Awesome's tests are already built in. Another cool thing is you can check them out too if you'd like, and it will automatically grade my code for this. For this one, it happened to be very easy. As long as the students actually ran the code, it would actually grade it correctly. If I go back over to the teacher view, again, you'll see that what we're setting up as the teacher is the template students receive when they first open the page, and we can also add a test bench or test cases that we'd like to grade the students' code with. If you're really interested in this, we will be having more webinars soon that dig deep into how to do auto grading. We also have a number of resources on our Help Center to help you get started with creating automated tests. The CS Awesome ones are really complicated, but they're really great. And what I really enjoy is if you are interested in digging into them, we do provide the entire test case right here for you to be able to see as the teacher. So if you want to dig into what CS Awesome is doing to kind of do those really complex tests, all their information is right there for you. Now, when you're going to design your own test cases, we have some different options. From a simple input-output comparison to a custom bash test. An input-output comparison allows you to give the student's program some input or not, and compare the student's code's output to an expected output that you'd expect. So what you'd expect their code to produce. This is a really easy way to get started with auto grading. And it's pretty simple to get started. As long as you know the output you'd like the student's code to produce, you can compare their output to that, and the system will automatically give it a check mark if everything matches. The other option is unit testing. And we have unit testing in a number of different languages: Python, Java, C++, JavaScript, and Ruby. You can even add manual tests to grade things like good variable names or the structure of students' code, things that we can't auto grade, but you may want to let students know that you're going to be providing a certain or allocating a certain number of points for that particular item. We even have, and this is newer, custom bash script testing, which really allows you to auto grade anything, because now you can create your own scripts, do your own installs and everything to grade the student's code any way you'd like. Definitely more for advanced power users. And the third thing that you can do is you can store your model solution for any coding IDE. This lets you, if you'd like, create a solution, work on it on your own, so you can store that model example of how the code should be when the students complete it. This is great for all of a sudden in class, you can't get something to work and you have a model to refer back to help students out. It's also really good for your automated tests. So you have a model that you can run your automated tests against, and hopefully your model solution actually passes the automated tests that you create. Other important things is when you create test cases, you can also provide feedback that the students will receive if they fail the test. You may want to go in here, and for CS Awesome gives some really nice feedback. There's a way that they generate certain feedback programmatically, but you can go in and you can just type something based on the certain test case so that students will see a message. Typically, I like to give some reminders to students. Hey, make sure you check this or check that, so that they know some clues to look at without having to call you over to read their code. Once you have pages set up, and again, you can click create and you can add your own pages to a Coding Rooms course. So you don't have to just use the pre-existing pages. You can fully edit them like I showed, and you can also add your own pages anywhere you'd like. Once you're ready, though, to have students see your course, you can go into the People's page, or the People page, and start to invite some students. You can either give students a join code, in which when they log into Coding Rooms, they can click join course and type in that code, or you can copy the join URL and post it on your learning management system like Google Classroom or Canvas or something or anything like that. I like to copy the join link and just send that to students, and it's very, very easy for students to join your course. All they need to do is use that join URL, like I'm going to do here for my example student, and if they're logged into Coding Rooms, it's especially fast. You'll notice that student joined immediately. And everything in Coding Rooms updates in real time. And that's really what I'm going to focus on now for the remainder of this webinar, is how real time this new version of Coding Rooms is. All the data, everything you see, when you interact with students, when students interact with you, everything updates in real time. So you'll notice that that student joined, and without me refreshing the page, I can see that Jack has joined my class. Over on the right-hand side, Jack sees the course. Now, the only issue is I didn't publish any content, so the student doesn't see anything yet. The easy indicator for this are the little lock icons on all the pages. In order for students to see a page, it needs to be published to them. So let's go over to 2.1, that page we were working on, and let's actually publish the page. You'll notice that there's a button in the top right-hand corner publish. You can very easily click this button and the students will have access to the course, to that page in the course, I should say. And it will update in real time. You can see Unit 2 now shows up for Jack, and page 2.1 will now load. Now you can customize the policies in how the page will publish. There's really advanced customization for how these pages work. When you click the drop down next to the publish button, and you can even edit these policies while the page is published, you'll see what we call the default policy. The default policy is that the page will just be published to all students immediately, as soon as you click the button. But you can change how those rules work. For instance, if I add an additional policy, or I can edit the default policy, I can add some additional rules. One of the wonderful things in the new version of Coding Rooms is that you can create group assignments, meaning students will collaborate on a page instead of having it their own page individually. And because everything in Coding Rooms updates in real time, the students would be working on the page in real time and see each other moving in real time, just like if you were on a Google Doc or some other real-time environment that you've had experienced before. So students can actually work on the code, work on multiple choice questions, work on short answer questions in real time together. And we'll show what that looks like in a little bit. So you can select an individual assignment or group assignment. You can select who you want to assign it to. You can set up sections of your course to assign policies to just individual sections. You can set up different groups and group sets to assign it to, and you can even select individual students, which has been really great in this era of COVID and students being sick. So you can create a policy for a student and give them an individual extension on the due date or some other different aspects of the policy. For the policy, we have things like a due date, a submission cutoff date where students can't submit past that time. You can even schedule the page to be published at a certain time with the available date. You can make the page no longer published at a certain date. And you can hide the grades until a certain date if you don't want students to see how they've performed on the page until typically it's after the marking period or after the submission cutoff is where teachers like to use that. But it's flexible enough that you can use the way you want to use it. Once you modify the policies, you just click save and it will update based on if you have the page published or not. If you don't want students to have access to the page, all you have to do is unpublish it. And as soon as you unpublish the page, it will disappear for students. Notice in real time that disappeared for Jack. If you want students to get the page back, all you have to do is click publish. It's as simple as that. Whatever policies you create will work whenever you click that publish button. Now that Jack has access to the page, he can scroll down, he can start answering questions. He can come over the short answer question and start answering things. He can scroll down, he can play videos. He can answer drag and drop questions. And check his answer, if he's correct or not. And one of the most wonderful things are, as students are working on the page, we get a real-time view of their progress with Coding Room's progress indicator bars. You'll notice that in our Lightning Grader panel, this is the panel that comes up over here on the right-hand side. We have these little bars that are showing up. You may have noticed that are lighting up. Yellow means a student has been working on that individual activity. Since the short answer cannot automatically grade, it's unable to automatically mark that as correct or incorrect, so it just leaves it as a yellow status if the student works in it. However, things that can auto-grade, like a drag and drop, a multiple choice, or a coding ID, will light up green if the student got it correct, or red if the student got it wrong. Yellow if they're still working on it. So for instance, if I start playing around with this multiple choice, that bar should light up yellow as I'm just still interacting with it. But as soon as I check my answer, it will light up either red if I get it wrong or green if I get it correct. It also updates the student's score in real time as they're working on the page. So far, Jack has 4 points. At any point in time, the teacher can jump into the student's page and watch the student work in real time and interact with the student in real time. This is just by clicking on the student's name. All the students would show up here in the lightning grader. I just happen to have one student. And when they click on that student's name, it opens up that student's work. Now I'm viewing Jack's work. And I can see Jack's work in real time. I can see what they answered for this first question. I can see what they've selected for the drag and drop. I can see what they've selected this one wrong for the multiple choice. And I can even see them update answers in real time. So as Jack clicks this multiple choice question, in real time, it updates and it shows me that they've selected that particular option. If Jack's working on a programming assignment and needs some help, is getting some error messages, I can very easily jump on their page, see where Jack is with a real-time presence indicator as they're moving around the code, running their code. It will update on both my view and the student's view in real time. Notice the console updated in real time, as well as Jack's presence, and Jack can also see the teacher in real time, moving around. If you find something, you can, of course, edit the student's code. If you need to. But you can also comment on the student's code if you'd just like to give them hints. You can highlight text, right-click, add a comment, add that comment there, and students will see the highlight from the comment, hover their mouse, and see your comment with a date and timestamp. As a student works on the page, it will let you know if they've marked the page as done or submitted it. And we'll also get an indicator in the lightning grader based on their submission status. When the student marks the page as done, submits the page, they'll be locked out and can no longer edit the page during that state. And a little check mark will show up on the lightning grader to show you that they've finished their work and it's ready for grading. Any automated tests will run to automatically mark that. For instance, I didn't complete a bunch of things on Jack's, so it's going to mark those all wrong, and I'll eventually get all red bars over here. When I go to look at Jack's work, if I want to provide some feedback, I can do that over here in the grader view of the lightning grader. Now that I'm grading Jack, I can go in, I can provide feedback. And when I save and next and save that and go on to the next student, it will give that feedback to Jack. Jack will see it immediately at the bottom that there's feedback to be viewed, as well as on Jack's dashboard. And Jack can view the feedback that you've left on the entire page. On the overview page for the student, it will not only show them a to-do list of assignments they need to complete, but it also shows them if there's any feedback on a recently submitted assignment so that they can see that right on their overview as soon as they enter the course. They'll see the to-dos and they will see the items that they need to review. If you've noticed that the student needs to continue to work on an assignment, you can also leave comments and return their work for revision. When you do this, it will alert the student that they need to continue working on it. It will unsubmit it for the student, let them know they need to continue to work on the assignment. As you can see, it just unsubmitted here. It tells them this was returned and needs revision so that they know they need to continue to work on the assignment, and they can, again, edit it and work on it and mark it done when they complete it again. When you're all done grading that student's work and you want to indicate to yourself that you're done, you want to check reviewed. And when you save the student's grade as reviewed, a green check will show up over here in the top right-hand corner of the student to indicate to you that you have reviewed this work. And these are all indicators for you to know how much you have left to complete for grading of the assignments. In the course, if you go to the people page, you can also create sections of your course. This allows you to group your students into things like period, maybe 2 or 10 o'clock section. So you can actually organize your students into particular sections of your course. You can even generate certain join URLs or join codes for those sections. So that's how you can enroll students from the beginning. So they're in those appropriate sections. This then allows you on things like the Lightning Grader or the gradebook to filter per certain sections of your course to see those groups of students one at a time. When you're creating those group assignments, we allow you to create all kinds of flexible group sets. These group sets can also be used for publishing and individual assignments. They're just ways for you to group students for a number of different things. Most commonly, again, is going to be for group work. You can create a group set for a particular project, put those students in those groups, and assign them and have them be assigned there. We also have join codes and join URLs for group sets, which allows you to actually allow the students to kind of self-assign themselves to particular groups if you set up buckets for them. If you need multiple admins or TAs, multiple teachers working on a course together, you can edit collaboratively together on the Coding Rooms page by adding additional admins or TAs to be able to access your course. In the grades page, you'll get a more traditional grid view of the different pages in your course. Let me publish a couple more pages so we can get a better view here. All the students will show up as individual rows, and all the pages will show up as different columns for this gradebook view. You can see the students. You can check out the feedback that you leave for them, as well as go to their submission at any point from this view, as well as go on to the different pages within the course. We allow you to filter and sort by all the modules so you can get just snapshots of that information, view your different sections one at a time, and download these views as a CSV or a JSON file for you to be able to work on importing it into your other systems and accessing the data the way you'd like. The teacher overview is similar to the student overview, where it gives you information that you need. When a student submits work, if you haven't graded their submitted work, it will tell you that you have an item to do on the overview page for the teacher. For instance, I just as Jack submitted 3.2, and notice now it says that I have 1 submission. So I've completed 0 out of 1 submissions to review for assignment 3.2. I can click on that. It will open up the page with the Lightning Grader open. The check marks will indicate who I need to grade, and I can go through and grade those students. Now, there are a couple other great ways that you can use Coding Rooms to interact with your students and their submissions. One of the things that's incredibly powerful is our grid view. Over on the right-hand side here, you can access the grid view and open it at any point in time on any assignment. The grid view allows you to look at an individual block on the page, like an IDE, a multiple choice question, a short answer question, and see all the student responses in a grid. For instance, I opened up the grid view. I have one student, Jack, so I can see their IDE here. I can actually run their code and check it out in real time. All the other students would show up as grid blocks here to check out any of their work. And I can go to any of the different items on the page to watch them in real time answer the questions. This is great for, especially some teachers use entrance or exit tickets, and they want to watch the students answer those questions in real time and check out all the responses on one screen. The other wonderful thing is presentation mode. Presentation mode allows you to present a page to the students to review it, and they can watch you reviewing it in real time. No more are the days of you having to project on the board and have some students squint and not be able to see the projection, or screen share and have to go back to certain views because students fell behind while you're sharing your screen. Students now can pace through your presentation however they'd like and follow along with you in real time as you type in live demo code. When you open up presentation mode, you can select which groups of students you want to go live in the presentation with. For instance, you can start presenting to an individual student. You can present to a section of your course or a group of students. You can also force the students to stay on the page that you're on. So if you don't want students to start clicking around in the rest of the course, checking out other pages and working on other work, and you want to force them to your presentation, you can do that by clicking the Follow Presentation button. It will force them to stay on the page that you're presenting. When you click Start New Presentation, or you can pick up where you left off on previous presentations, they'll also show up there. It creates the presentation view. What students will see is the presentation view and their own work side by side. What this allows them to do is any block on the page, they can follow along in real time with the teacher. Notice over here on the presentation view, the student can see the teacher moving along, changing the code. And when the teacher runs the code in the presentation view, the students will see the output. Students cannot edit the presentation, however, so it's just a view for them to see the teachers working in real time in a read-only way. The students, of course, can work on their own page. So as they're following along with the teacher, they have the ability to go through the page on their own and continue to work on it. The teacher, if the student needs help, can very easily jump on a student's page by clicking their name in the lightning grader. And instead of it taking up the entire screen while you're in presentation view, you can actually see the student's work side by side with your presentation. So as you're presenting, if a student needs help, for instance, maybe they raise their hand, it will indicate that they need help over in the lightning grader by showing the hand icon. And you can easily go on their page and see what their error is because you can see their code running and you can see them moving around on the code in real time. We will also be adding ways for you to get warnings when students actually run code and it gets error messages, and some other real-time data that you can see. One of the most powerful things is that grid view I showed, you can open up even during your presentation. So if you demoed some code to your class and you'd want to see them now, you've challenged them to do something, you want to see how they're doing with that, you can open up the grid view, and in a real-time grid, you'd see all the students coding on that particular IDE in real time, and you can watch them as they run into errors, and you can jump in and help them very easily because you can still open up this in real time, or you can just scan through and see how students are doing as they progress through the work.